If you're working in QuickBooks and you're not doing the reconciliations, you could have a lot of errors just stacking up and you would never know. There's no way to know there's any issues. And unfortunately, many times those financials get, sent to your tax accountant and they just kind of plug the numbers and send it on, but you don't know that, things are incorrect, that inaccuracy is there.
Hello, and welcome back to the Scaling Therapist podcast. I'm your host, James Marland. Today, I have Jacob Hensley with me from Freedom Business Solutions. Why I brought Jacob on the show today is I was looking into getting more support with my QuickBooks. If you've heard me talk about QuickBooks or managing my own finances, you probably heard frustration in my voice because it does things sometimes, and I don't know what it's doing, and I either have to do research or figure it out, call somebody to get help. It takes hours to do what is probably a 5-minute task. So I know that was not my strength. I needed help in the financial side of things. And Jacob and his company help therapists with that. So I'm bringing Jacob on the show to talk about what bookkeepers can do for you. Jacob, welcome to the show.
James, it's a pleasure to be on. Thanks for having me.
Sure. So why don't you tell me, before we talk about what bookkeepers can do for you, tell me a little bit about Freedom Business Solutions, where you're located, and your webpage.
Yeah. So Freedom Business Solutions, it's me and my business partner and good buddy, Austin Allwell. We are based out of Northern Kentucky, just south of Cincinnati, Ohio. And yeah, we started here in August of 2025, so we're fairly new at the time of this recording, but really just came together and decided that we wanted to help use our background in finance to help small businesses with those who are fighting the mental health crisis. And so what we landed on was therapists and practices. And so that's our ideal client. That's who we're looking to serve. And yeah, that's what brought us together was really being involved in youth ministry. So there's a local high school here that we're involved with the retreat for the seniors of that high school grade. And so, yeah, just seeing the need for that at that age group really brought it up in our conversations. And so that's why we really got started.
Great. And you offer, we were talking about bookkeeping services, and I thought it would be great to just talk about what is a bookkeeper, what do they do, and how they can help your business grow, scale, or maybe even help your sanity like me. I avoid it, sometimes I avoid my financial stuff, even though it's not egregious, it's not a lot. It's just, I know sometimes it's great and sometimes it'll bite you and be like, I don't know how to do it. So anyways, let's start our conversation and maybe just give us a definition of a bookkeeper, and let's start listing some of the things on how a bookkeeper can help you grow your business.
Yeah. I actually think it might be best to start out with a definition of something that everyone's a little more familiar with, is the CPA.
Okay,
And
yeah, do that.
Yeah, so the CPA designation is really the cream of the crop in the accounting world, but it really encapsulates all areas of accounting. So that includes bookkeeping, taxes, which is the one that everyone associates a CPA with, and also audits, if you have to have some sort of audit there. But our background is both in tax and bookkeeping. And so what I think a lot of practice owners and business owners in general don't realize is that the two are heavily connected. So your books flow right into your tax return, and from there, that's what gets filed to the IRS. So if you have bookkeeping errors, you can easily have errors on your tax return. And so that's what we exist for, is to be a holistic solution. So we enjoy both the bookkeeping and the tax side, the tax planning and strategy, but also making sure everything's accurate on the bookkeeping side and efficient, so that it all works together and is a smooth process. And we really like to sit in the seat of really like a relationship rather than, typical CPA firm, they're heavy tax focused. And so they don't always have the time or the resources to look at the whole picture of what you're trying to do and where you're trying to go. But with a bookkeeper and a tax person kind of put together, you can get that holistic view and really avoid some mistakes that could be costly down the road.
Yeah, you mentioned accuracy, and thinking back to some of my problems, it probably boils down to a little bit of accuracy, especially when there's two accounts that look the same. And so QuickBooks says, this is the account it goes in, but it's not.
Yeah.
And then you end up with, a random $35 error when you reconcile. And then because I don't work in QuickBooks every day, I don't know where to fix it. I don't know where to find it. I know it's $35, but tracking that down could be a lot of time. So talk about how a bookkeeper can help a business grow by being accurate with the accurate books and accurate accounting.
Yeah, that's a great point. And just to start, it's not worth your time, kind of going through that. So what the bookkeeper is able to do, and a lot of people don't realize this from QuickBooks or a bookkeeping perspective, but QuickBooks can really be the Wild West of accounting. So your typical accounting system has its debits and credits. QuickBooks does not run on that. It runs on your bank transactions just automatically feeding in, and it tries to make suggestions to tell you where to put it, but that's not always the case of where it should go. And in fact, if you're ever in there trying to code things around, if you ever see it's a gray suggestion, that's just a complete random guess from QuickBooks. So if it's green, it's kind of an educated guess. If it's gray, they're just throwing it out there.
I didn't
So
even, I just thought, oh, the QuickBook mastermind knows better. If that's what it said it is, I guess that's what it is. So I'll
yeah.
click OK. And then you end up with things that shouldn't be.
Right. And so those things can start to add up. And especially there's times where your bank feeds break down. There's times where your bank feeds duplicate. And so because all of this is really just kind of everywhere, that's what you do at the end of the month, or what you're supposed to do is reconcile. So that's taking your bank statement, your credit card statement, and comparing it to what the feeds came in and told QuickBooks. So essentially it bridges the two to match reality, to what QuickBooks said, to what actually happened. And so that reconciliation process is where you start to find errors. One, if you're working in QuickBooks and you're not doing the reconciliations, you could have a lot of errors just stacking up and you would never know. There's no way, and that's kind of why I say it's the Wild West, because there would be no way to know there's any issues. And unfortunately, many times those financials get, sent to your tax accountant and they just kind of plug the numbers and send it on, but you don't know that, things are incorrect, that inaccuracy is there. So that's the one side of it. And then, just the other side is not all of your feeds that come in are always exactly how the reporting needs to go. The first one that comes to mind is payroll. If you have W-2 employees, then there's actually what's called a journal entry where you have to manually go in and make sure you're doing that journal entry at the end of every month. So again, not something you would know to do if you were just kind of coding and QuickBooks was giving you suggestions of where things should go.
So the bookkeeper reviews your transactions and helps you with the making sure everything's in and entered accurately, and then helps with the reconciling at the end of the month so that you have accurate months to go from.
Correct. Yeah, and I that's something that, I just saw somebody in our accounting space post about the other day. But, for example, if you have a plumbing issue at home, you're typically going to call a plumber. But, for some reason, and I think it has a lot to do with QuickBooks, is advertising is, as a small business owner, that you could just do all your books and everything's clean and easy. But really it's kind of the same thing. You want that headache and that stress off of your plate, especially as a therapist. It's, something that, if it's draining your energy, then you don't have enough there for your clients. And not only that, but it's not worth your time if, like you said, you're running into errors. Now you're trying to work with QuickBooks
Oh, I would
support.
take a half day, like to reconcile a few accounts just because it was either double entering or they weren't coming over. Then I would have to go get a CSV file. It's a comma separated value file, like some sort of spreadsheet to bring it over. But then maybe I put it in the wrong account, or maybe it just, I don't know. And now instead of one error, you have 50 errors. And yeah, it would take a long time. You're right about the advertising. That program tries to sell you everything. It's like, buy live service, get a loan. Like every time it's like, get a loan, get a business loan. It's just trying to tell you things. I'm like, I don't want this. I just want just what you said. I want debits and credits. I want to
Yeah.
know what I spent, where it went, who it went to, and where did I get my money? That's all. That's really, the taxes and the other stuff. Yes, it's important, but I don't need to know how the sausage is made. But there is something about the financial side that you're like, oh, it doesn't take that much time and I can do it. But really, when you look down to it, it is taking a lot of time. And let's say you're like me and you're frustrated about it. Well, it's like time, you're eroding your willpower to do other things and enjoy other things. Like at the end of the day, I'd be like, oh, I'm so glad I'm done with that. I think I'm going to go take a break, a 2-hour break, a 2-day break to get it done, the weekend. I would normally do it on Fridays, which I don't know if it's a good idea to do something you don't like to do and wait till Friday because you're just you're frazzled by the end. So yeah, giving it over to somebody who is an expert is just one of those managerial skills that I don't know if it's the education system where it's like you got to do everything yourself and you got to be independent, or if it's not hard, it's not worthwhile. So you help people. Have you talked to people who have felt really relieved when you've taken over their services?
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. They have said it's an answered prayer is one of the things that we've heard so far. So that was
It's a religious experience.
my personal favorite. But yeah, I think the initial thought is everyone they have a CPA relationship, and that's kind of like, okay, taxes. Yeah, I can't do that as a business owner, but really your bookkeeping and taxes are one and the same if you're a small business owner. So that's another thing that we like to be able to do is, if you have an existing CPA relationship, the bookkeeper relationship can work alongside it. And we even kind of step in as a second set of eyes, where if there's certain inefficiencies or tax deductions that your current CPA is missing, then we would love to, take a look at those things and kind of analyze. A lot of us especially in the finance world, we get caught up in just kind of doing the same thing as last year. But if you don't have a holistic look at the person and their goals and where they're trying to go, you could definitely be missing some things from a tax planning perspective. So we start with a relationship. We believe it all starts and ends with a relationship, and it's something that we're trying to do in our industry is make it relationship focused, make it practice owner focused, really, so that it leads to the best results for everyone involved.
Great. So you mentioned quite a few things. Accuracy, I wrote down sanity, it saves your mind. Extra eyes, holistic, relationship. Is there other things a bookkeeper can do for you, or another benefit of having a bookkeeper?
Yeah, I would say just access to reporting. So at
Mm.
the end of every month, you can really see how profitable you've been. I think the gut reaction of a business owner is to look at their bank balance, but that bank balance doesn't necessarily tell the whole story. There's things that come up like tax payments and whatever else that they don't show up in that bank balance. But if you have your reporting, if you have a trusted person that knows tax planning, they can help you get ahead of the game on that as well. And that's what we strive to do. So that's really the first thing that comes to mind is just kind of prepare for, give you those reports to have a peace of mind of where things are
Mm,
going. But also, let's say, for your audience, we have a lot of people who might have side hustles or courses or other streams of income. A bookkeeper can also work through and separate those streams of income and expenses so that you can see where those efforts are going. So
yeah,
that could
which one
be
is really profitable? You
exactly.
know, did that marketing expenditure move the needle? You also said one of the things that I think it's easy to gloss over is the good data. The good data helps you make decisions
Hmm.
because without it, you're just, can I hire somebody? Do I have enough money? Should I invest in this building? How much are my programs costing me? I have multiple media programs. Like I have Canva, the Adobe Express, I have Adobe, whatever their Adobe platform is. I have Descript. I have all these things. How much is that costing me? And could I or should I shed them for some reason? Like you don't see that without those extra set of eyes. And if you don't have like for me, for maybe 6 or 8 months, a couple years ago, I wasn't reconciling my books because it was very difficult until I got a little bit of help. But anyways, well, I didn't know, should I buy this program? I didn't know, should I bring on a virtual assistant to hire to help with social media? I just didn't know how much money I had and I couldn't predict the future. So yeah, good data helps you make good decisions.
Definitely, yeah. And that's a best practice with bookkeeping is tagging that vendor who you're paying, because then you can pull reports and see, okay, I have this subscription. This is how much it's cost me, over the past year. Has it increased or all those things? Yeah, that good data, like you said, leads to good decisions. And that's where really sitting in the bookkeeper role as you start to grow and as you start to have more complexities, especially with team members and payroll, that's where that holistic solution of someone that can grow and scale with you and kind of get more in the details of those questions. I'd say
Mhm.
your kind of baseline bookkeeper is the one who's making sure everything's accurate. But once the complexity grows, then you want somebody who's going to step in and, meet with you once a quarter, once a month, just to talk about, what do these numbers mean or what are some red flags? What should you be looking out for? And that's definitely something we strive to do is kind of be there with practice owners every step of the way.
Yeah, you were talking about what do I got to look up for, or what do I have to look out for? You know, how many people aren't saving money away for their taxes? Yeah, you know, and what if you doubled your income in over the last 2 years? Well, guess what? Your tax bill's going to be more.
Mm.
And like, if you're not thinking about that or preparing for the future, it's going to be a big surprise. And business owners don't like big surprises, especially when there's a dollar amount or a bill on the side of that. So having those people who can see the future and like they know the tax system and how things are paid can help you prepare for those things and see the hidden things, like the story the numbers are telling, that you might not see because you're in the business doing things.
Yeah, James, that's such a great point you make, especially about the taxes. If your income moves drastically up or down in a certain year, unfortunately, the typical CPA process is you'll get your return filed by April 15th and you'll get an an hourly bill for that from your CPA on top of the IRS bill, on top of your state bill if that's applicable. So all those things plus your estimates for the next year. All of that is due April 15th. So if you had a high income year and you decided to reinvest a lot of that cash back into the business, maybe hire somebody, you could have a surprise waiting for you come April 15th. So having somebody that can step with you along the way and build that tax return and that tax bill throughout the year is a huge asset to have on your team, especially for a growing practice or someone who strives to be a growing practice. That's really why we opted for an all-in. We're kind of like a subscription almost. So you know exactly what our fees are throughout the year, and you can know exactly what your tax bill is going to be throughout the year. So again, more
Mm,
peace of mind, just allowing you to sit in that role as practice owner, but also as a therapist if you're
mm.
still seeing clients.
Yeah, you bring out a great point there at the end where this having somebody to take care of these things lets you stay in your strength. Stay where you produce the most for the business. Are you
Mhm.
going to produce the most for the business fighting with QuickBooks or hiring a staff or seeing more people or developing an online course or some other income stream? Like, where do you generate the most value for the business? And 99% of the time, maybe even 100% of the time, it's not making those reports and making sure everything's accurate. It's hiring somebody to do that so you can do more value add to your company.
Yeah, you're speaking my language there. There's a great book called Buy Back Your Time
Mm,
by Dan Martell, and he gives this four quadrant chart of essentially tasks that light you up and that
mm,
make you money. And so your goal is to keep going up and to the right, just finding those tasks where you're really hitting your stride, you're hitting your kind of God-given meaning and purpose, and the rest you can hand off to someone else who that's in their up and to the right as well. So that's where everyone in their roles on the team can really be hitting their stride. And I think a lot of practice owners got into it with a heart for therapy, and that can totally continue to exist. But if you're, in a growing practice, somebody has to sit in that role of the business owner as well. So yeah, that's just something that comes to mind as you mention that.
I love that. Buy back your time. And it is amazing that other people love the tasks you don't like.
Yes.
That it
Very well
thrills
said.
them. It thrills them. They're like, oh wow, a books, with everything lined up and everything is perfect and pristine. Oh, I just can't wait to get in and and like check the list and make everything's correct. I love all the details, and that is just, God bless those people.
Yeah. And that's exactly the dynamic that me and Austin have is, I love looking out and kind of drawing in, and he likes to look in and look at, who we're working with and
Mhm.
look at all those details. And so that's kind of where we enjoy that back and forth and roles that we're establishing in our firm internally.
Yeah, great. This has been some very good conversation, especially for people who are on the fence about buying a bookkeeper or like hiring a bookkeeper.
I'd
Um,
say partnering. That's what we like to
Partnering.
say.
Oh, very good. That's a better word. Partnering. Yeah, because you're working together to achieve the same result. You're pulling in the same direction. Um, and I know, there's probably 100 of little things like this that I was on the fence for. Can I do this on my own? Shouldn't I? But as I partner with a bookkeeper, I just was like, why didn't I do this, 5 years ago? Why did I struggle so long thinking I could do it? And like same thing with social media, same thing with web page. Like that is not where I'm adding the most value, creating content and getting out with people, meeting people. That's where I add value, not balancing my books. I need balanced books, but that's not where I'm going to add the value. So I hope people understand that. Jacob, can you, as we're wrapping up here, can you tell people, your website again, what you offer and who you want to partner with?
Yeah, yeah. So our website is freedombusiness.net. And really the best way to find us would be through LinkedIn, Freedom Business Solutions LLC. My name is on there as Jacob Hensley, CPA, CFP. And yeah, we're Freedom Business Solutions, and we exist to help practice owners who are mission focused and want to make a change and help out those seeking to heal those with mental health issues. So we're happy to serve that niche.
Wonderful. Thanks for sharing your heart, and thanks for sharing your mission with the audience.
All right. Thanks, James.
So, friends, let me lean in a little bit here. You're probably doing too much, okay? You're probably taking on some tasks that you shouldn't be doing, and you need to put yourself in a position where you can offer the most value, to explore your gifts and to help the most people. Probably not entering numbers into QuickBooks. So, if you want to put your mission in motion, it's time to shed some of those tasks and hire that staff, whether it's a bookkeeper, social media manager, web page designer. Hire that position so that you can do your best work. And we'll be here to support you. It's now time to put your mission in motion. We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening to the show. I want to thank our pro level sponsors for sponsoring Scaling Therapy Practice. I want to give a special shout out to Profit Comes First. They're a pro level sponsor of Scaling Therapist Podcast. You can become a pro level sponsor and also get your name mentioned by going to scalingtherapistservices.com and join the Scaling Therapist Services directory. Click the Get Listed button today. Not only will you get mentioned on the show, you can submit a monthly educational blog on your topic for the readers of the newsletter. So get listed today, scalingtherapistservices.com/join. I want to thank Jacob for being an excellent guest on the show, talking about ways to maximize your time by hiring somebody who loves to do the bookkeeping. You can find them at freedombusiness.net. It was so nice to meet Jacob and Austin at the AACC in Nashville, and I hope to continue to see them. I also use their services. If you are looking for somebody to help you manage your bookkeeping services, give them a check out. We'll see you next time.